Hey there, friends. We're going to have a little bit of fun today at someone else's expense. That's how we do over here. First of all, I want to say this. Sometimes people get offended and feelings get hurt whenever I say negative things about somebody else. Understand this, folks, and I'm trying to be as truthful as I can and as straightforward as I can. Please don't mistake me for being news. That's not what I do. I do not deliver the news. I take things that are happening in the news and I talk about them, but I don't deliver the news. There's a big difference. Talking about the news and giving the news are two different things. Granted, not many people are giving the news today. The people that you might be tuning into to give you the news are just giving you their version of the news, just like I'm doing. So please understand that. But don't put me on that pedestal that I'm a journalist. I'm not. I never claimed to be. I don't want to be, and I don't want to be called that. That's a bad word for me. If you look at people who consider themselves journalists now, there are other people in the Second Amendment community who do deliver the news, and they do a very good job of it. Those are your news providers, if you will. Again, please understand, I am more of an op-ed piece. I take what's out there, and I have no qualms about the fact that I am biased, and I will give my opinion on that story. Now, I will deliver the facts at the same time. I'm not going to twist those facts, but you will get my opinion on that. So that's very important, because what I'm about to do is have a little bit of fun, again, at somebody else's expense. And if feelings get hurt, you just have to stop watching my videos, because that's how I deliver everything that I do. That's how I disseminate my information. I am going to give my opinion and my thoughts on a particular person. If someone is a scumbag, I will use whatever colorful name I can get away with calling them on YouTube. So when you say, oh, the name calling doesn't help, it does for me. I get a lot out of it. I'm really happy doing that. And if that's not the way you think that I should operate, that's not going to change. The advice you give me in the comment section does not impact the way I'm going to put my video out tomorrow. It's going to be just the same. In fact, I might be a little bit more spiteful and spicy the way I deliver that tomorrow. Just saying. Because this one's going to be a fun one. Our boy David Hogg posted about get this, what men want. Quote, men want one thing, and it's literally regional high-speed rail with affordable, frequent, and reliable local public transit connections and mixed-use development around transit hubs. Now, we're dealing with a high school dropout here, so rest assured, most of the posts that you see here is copied and pasted. This boy doesn't understand most of what's going on in these big multi-syllable words that he has in his Twitter post. This is a progressive dream, and actually it's more of a progressive nightmare if you look at how successful, or I should say unsuccessful, high-speed rail has been here in the United States and in other places that are as vast and as broadly spread out as the United States is. Before I get into all of that, I want to talk about some of the very obvious things. First of all, David Hogg pretending to be a man and then pretending to speak on behalf of men has got to be one of the wildest and weirdly ironical things that I've ever seen. Remember when Joe Biden spoke for all black people?
But if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Yeah, that's what your boy's doing right here. How ironic is it that an organization like the Democrat Party and the progressives, it's funny how they've even hijacked the word progressives, because when we do stuff, it's progressive. We're making progress. They want to go back to archaic transportation methods like a train. And also, this is from the party that struggles to identify what a woman is. I'm curious, if they can't identify a woman, how does Hogg identify a man? Because with him not being one, he has to be going off of something, right? It's not experience. So who has described a man to David Hogg? On top of that, is this man he speaks of a woman transitioning to be a man? Because that's what he supports. Or is it a real, legitimate, biological man? An actual man, one that we would call a man. I also am very at least curious, not to the point that he might want me to be, but how these wackos on the far left always talk about the genitalia of actual men like me and you whenever referring to AR-15s, and now he's speaking on behalf of man. I wonder what kind of signal this is. Is this bait? But I couldn't help but post some of the comments out here. You've got to see this boy is getting absolutely roasted. Some of the stuff I cannot read, but the stuff that I can, and some of my favorites as far as comments to his post on X or Twitter, are these. Dude, bro, dude commented, I speak for all men, and I say we want to drive our own vehicles whenever and wherever TF, you know what that means, we want to. Absolutely. Doug says, this feels like satire. I'm a man. I drive my truck where I need to go. And look down at your left, Damaged Sector says, so you want a bunch of men to run a train. I found a lot of posts on David Hogg running a train and David Hogg getting railed under here. You want to go look at these posts and see. Some of these other ones I can't read on here because YouTube will not appreciate that, as YouTube is more than likely a fan of the Hog Boy as well. This was probably one of my favorites by Rob Dalton, Real Men Want, and he has a Toyota Hilux with some heavy gunnery on the back of it and says, for regime changes on a budget. That is killer. Now, Hogg did have one supporter, a boy named Revoke the Second, at least that's his handle, says, yes, that and the Second Amendment to be revoked. So as you can see, there probably is a likelihood that these two either have spent some quality time together, or this may be a romance in the making that we are seeing blossom right before our very eyes. Now to the real stuff, to actual stuff that matters and why things are what they are. Again, as I said, the high-speed rail stuff is simply a pipe dream for the wackos on the far left. This is a way for them to implement and institute their cool new little green thing. And I want to show you real quick why some things, if you were an educated person, just don't make sense. Understand that David Hogg dropped out of high school. David Hogg got a complimentary degree from Harvard. Yes, he attended some at Harvard, but he got that. He didn't meet the qualifications to get into Harvard. Not that Harvard is the benchmark anymore. They've really lowered their standards lately. Remember, Shijak thought that the moon was made of gases and that we could inhabit the sun. And she is also went to an Ivy League college, Yale. So the bar has been lowered quite a bit over the last couple of decades as far as these Ivy League schools. But Harvard, they let him into Harvard. Like, yeah, you suck, but come on. They wanted the publicity. So he goes in there and he gets his honorary degree and all that good stuff. Apparently they don't teach a lot of stuff there other than maybe liking, terrorist organizations. But it seems like the real stuff that you and I learned when we were in school, or basic stuff that we've learned in life, maybe not. It doesn't translate to some of these kids nowadays because they're so sidetracked with all of their progressive agenda, like your boy here. This is a map right here that shows the size of America, or the size of the United States, in relation to all of Europe. All of Europe. The United States is one country. Europe is a bunch of countries that make up all of Europe. And the United States is still bigger by quite a bit, by probably a good 30 or 40%, than all of Europe. So looking at this picture, this next slide right here is going to be the rail system. All the pink lines are the rail system throughout Europe. You can kind of make out the continent of Europe right there. Sorry for the quality of the picture, but this is the best one that I could find that showed the entire rail system throughout Europe. So look how condensed and how close all those lines are. Obviously, with the size of Europe being so small and they have so much of a rail system over there, you can hop on a train and go to the next town over. That might be 2 miles away. Because there are trains using this archaic technology. This was what they used back in the day, quote unquote. The United States is a newer country That's why we don't rely on the rail system. This is a general idea of passenger rails in the United States. Now, this is not all railroads. These are the ones that passenger trains travel on, just like Europe. Those are all passenger trains. So if you look at how big the United States is, then you understand how widespread the rail system is. And in order to get what Europe has as condensed and side by side and on top of each other that all the rail systems are, it would take centuries likely to be able to lay that much system to be able to have the rail system that Europe currently has. And on top of that, imagine how dirty that would be. I don't see a whole lot of heavy machinery with big giant batteries in them, which batteries come from the earth that you have to rape in order to get your batteries. But all the heavy equipment necessary to lay down all these railways are not going to be done by EVs. So you are going to create, which I am the world needs, the earth needs carbon. But these people are so worried about the amount of carbon that's produced by all these fossil fuels. Who and what are going to build this progressive rail system that Hog Boy is celebrating here, and all the wackos on the left that celebrate this green stuff? This is a huge pipe dream. This is something that these people know ain't going to happen. They know this is not going to happen. It's not possible. I know everything's possible, but we would have to abandon everything else and go, well, I guess we got to build a train now or a track now. Most Americans don't want this. It's failed in California. In California, it started out as a $33 billion project. Now it's up to $130-something billion, and they still haven't finished it. Still don't have much of it built, and it's been an absolute disaster. France, where obviously their system is successful for them because they're tiny, little bitty tiny France. They came to California to try to help them with that little rail system over there. And Californians figured, we know how to do stuff better than you, France, even though France has been doing it for 100 years. And France went back home. In fact, I think France went to Morocco and helped them build a rail system because they said, screw you, California. But Americans don't want this. Oh, wait. Here is something maybe that says I don't know what I'm talking about. Data finds overwhelming support for passenger rail in America. Well, see, maybe I was wrong. I wonder who put out this study. Well, there you go, Amtrak Media Center, and look down who put the study out. New Amtrak poll identifies need for continued investment at the federal and state levels. So Amtrak conducted their own study, no pun intended, to determine if America wanted high-speed rail, and they determined, Amtrak, a rail organization, determined that we all wanted what they have, even though that's an absolute failed program by Amtrak. You've heard of the $600 toilet seats and hammers and hamburgers. They can't do anything right. The government screws everything up they touch. So this has been failed from day one. Amtrak has screwed it up. Everybody else has screwed it up. But they ran a poll that Americans want this. Let me explain something to you. Americans between Washington, D.C. and New York City probably want high-speed rail. Anyone who is stupid enough to think that a high-speed rail from Los Angeles, California to New York City is ever going to happen is just that, stupid. Because that's not possible. That's not going to happen. You will not get to New York any faster than what you get there now, or vice versa, back to Los Angeles. If you poll America, not by Amtrak, if you poll real Americans, I'm talking about the ones that wear work boots to work, not the ones who wear women's clothes to work every day. I'm talking about the men, the David Hoggs of the world. If you poll actual Americans, you will find, and I don't need a poll to tell me this. I don't trust in polls anyway, but if you want to run one, you will find the vast majority of Americans do not want to be reliant on a rail system, because a rail system means now that we all have to live on top of each other. If the train track or the train station is 5 miles from your house, how do you get there? You're not going to walk. Americans are lazier today than they've ever been. So they're not going to walk. What if it's 10 miles away? You ain't walking for sure. So as it stands, something has to get you there. Oh, those old pesky fossil fuels again. I guess they're going to do that, right? So I'm going to take my car to drive to the train station where you're working. The amount of time you just spent driving to that train station, parking your vehicle, probably paying for parking, securing your vehicle, gathering your stuff, then wait for the train. You could have been at work 30 minutes ago. A train system is not an optimal way to work. If you live in a close, consolidated area on top of each other, maybe. If you have a train running on a schedule and all it does is make those same rounds and it's predictable, then you can do that. You can't have that in a cross-country system like what they're wanting. It's not possible. And again, I have to repeat, it goes back to the only way a train system could be successful is if we all lived on top of each other. They don't want you living on an acre of land. They don't want you to have 5 neighbors. They want you to have 5 neighbors next door. Like a connecting wall on the other side of that wall. That's how they want us. That's the whole conditioning of America. They want these, what they call 15-minute cities, where you can walk anywhere in 15 minutes. That's what they want. They don't want us building out. They want to build up. They want to stack us on top of each other. Personally, guys, I'm not going to live like that. And I know most of you are not either. Now, some people have to. I get that. I'm not one of these kind of people that says, oh, if you live in a high rise, you're this and you're that. No, look, hey, we're all born into, or jobs sometimes dictate, families sometimes dictate what you have to do, where you have to go, and where you have to live. Personally, I'm fortunate enough to not have to make the kind of choices where I live in a 110-story building and I have 5 gazillion neighbors in there. I don't have to live like that. I live the way I want to. I make the choices I want. As soon as you allow the government to start mandating that we build all these trains, the next mandate is that you cannot drive to work anymore. Oh, we have a train for you. Does it take you 45 minutes to get to the train? Not my problem. We as the government provided a train for you. Now you have to use it. Your little gas guzzling car over here, you don't get to use anymore. My point in all of this, other than having a good time at David Hogg's expense, is the fact that these progressives always pretend to know what is better for us, even though they don't walk in our shoes. We constantly have these anti-gun people hound us on what's best for gun owners, even though none of them have ever been gun owners. They talk about how, concealed carry is going to be the Wild West now, even though nowhere in the 29 states that it's implemented is the Wild West. There's not shootouts on the street. These people have these fantasies in their minds where they assume, because they don't know our side, they don't know our culture, that we must operate and think a certain way, when they're usually dead wrong on that. Just like this boy here is. He's pretending to know what men want. All jokes aside, this kid hasn't lived enough in the real world to know or speak for anybody, even kids. This is a young person that is taking advantage of a tragedy that happened in a school. He has capitalized and made a fortune embezzling money from a 501(c)(3), and he's now pretending to tell people what they want. This is a way of trying to Jedi mind F us. Oh, well, every other man wants a high-speed rail? Well, why don't I want a high-speed rail? Because I'm a man, I should want one too. Don't fall for it, guys. You know what real men want? Real men want the freedom to do whatever they want, and for other people to stop pretending they know what we want and to stop telling us what we want.
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
Survival!